So yeah, so this is plugged in, but I don't know how to get it to show up.
Do you know how to?
Like I've looked at the displays settings. Sorry, what? We're live. Oh, okay. Welcome. Okay.
Welcome, everybody. There's a lot of good conversation happening in the room, so we're really glad that you are with us. This is Crossroads, and we haven't been here for, I don't know, like 27 months, so thanks for being with us. Of course, I should stand in front of the camera. And welcome to those who are in person, and welcome to those who are online. We're really glad that you have come back, and glad to be in person. We're having obviously some technical issues for those who are in person, watching all of the shenanigans happening up here. So we're trying to get that fixed. But our presenter is very talented and will be able to do his work regardless of whether or not you get to see slides. People online will be able to see the slides, so because we have that set up. So there's the benefit of being online. We'll see if we get it done in the room. So working with the Plymouth staff to make that happen. So anyway, I am just delighted. I can't say it enough times. I'm delighted that you're here and with us. We have Matt Sinovic, who is a very good and dear friend to Interfaith Alliance of Iowa and to many of us in the room. And Matt is the executive director of Progress Iowa, which is an organization that's been around for about 12 years, 10 years. Sorry, I aged you more than you needed to be. So, and does excellent work in Iowa particularly on communications. That is really their strength and a lot of the work that they do. And so Matt is going to talk with us and teach us how to be better communicators, better storytellers, and I believe you're going to get to practice too, so be aware of that. But I'm just going to bring Mr. Matt Sinovic up, and if you will, welcome him.
Thank you, and I think I need to turn this microphone on. Is that right? Am I good now?
Talk loud.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
talk
great.
loud.
Okay. We're at least getting that part right of the technology here. Well, my name is Matt Sinovic. I'm the executive director of Progress Iowa. Thank you, Connie, Kristen, Interfaith Alliance for hosting these events, for being willing to come back in person. It is nice to see everyone here. And I'm here to talk to you today about how you can tell your story. And the name of the presentation, for those of you watching online, that you can see these slides, is that we are all storytellers. And that's what I want to leave you with that today. I want to start with that and leave you with that no matter what you think about what your day-to-day life is or what you're going through, when you watch the news, when you see people making these policy decisions, our stories can really make a difference. And I'm here today, and I'm so proud of the work that we do with Progress Iowa, because I really believe that Iowans work hard. We want good elected officials, and that they have too many of them have left us behind. But we can all take action to make a difference, and telling our personal story is a way to do that, and is oftentimes one of the most effective ways to do that. So I'm going to go through my presentation here, and if we are able to get it up on the screen, we will certainly do that. But Kristen, I'm on the next slide if you want to move over to that. So it is nice to meet you. I want to tell you a little bit about Progress Iowa as well. And we're a statewide advocacy group. We have a reach of over 65,000 people across the state. As Connie mentioned, we've been around for 10 years. We get to do great work with organizations such as Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, many friends in the faith and labor community, grassroots groups, LGBTQ groups, environmental organizations. My friend Mike from Alliance for Retired Americans is here. So that's mean, really any progressive organization under the sun, we have probably partnered with education organizations too, of course. We've partnered with in some way, shape, or form, and our goal is to help partner organizations and activists. We want to be a support for them to tell their story and get a more effective progressive message all across the state. So a couple of just before we get into the meat of the presentation, a couple of fun statistics about the work that we have done just this year at Progress Iowa. We have a great team of 8 staff who work tirelessly to help y'all do this. But we've gotten over 300 press stories in the press or letters to the editor just in Iowa, just in 2022. And we calculate that we tabulate that what that dollar value is, and that's over $700,000 in earned media value. So that's the reach of our team just in press alone. And so that can be working with another organization to help hold an event that gets press coverage, or like I said, I think it's around 115 letters to the editor, where that's one of the asks that I'm going to have at the end. If you sign up with us, we will contact you about writing letters to the editor and helping you tell your story in that way. Thank you, Connie. So we have that terrific team that is ready to help you. If you go to progressiowa.org or iowavoices.org, those are our 2 main websites. We have great message materials. We have great sample social media that you can use to help spread a good progressive message. So I'd encourage you to do that. So telling your story, how fast does a first impression first impressions really do matter. So how fast do you think a first impression happens? Okay, I heard it just a few seconds, which is right. It's actually 30 seconds. So now, then more than 55% of your first impression is actually formed in 7 to 17 seconds. So I think someone said 7 seconds. Is that right? Did you 7? What'd you say? Oh, 70. Okay, well, you were close. You were close. Yeah. So right. Yeah. You got the 7 part right, but 7 to 17 seconds, more than half of your first impression of someone is in just that short of a time frame. And can anyone guess how long the average attention span is? I heard 7 minutes. What'd you say? 8 seconds. Anyone else? 3 seconds? 3 minutes, okay. And then I have another question here on the slide before we go to the next one with the answers, Kristen, about how many messages do we see daily? How many messages do you think people see on a daily basis? A lot. That's a good guess. Good guess. Anyone want to put a number to it? 124. 124. Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to go to the next slide. We'll show. So the average attention span is actually 8 seconds. Shorter than a goldfish. So literally shorter than a goldfish. And the number of messages we see on a daily basis, the average is 5,000. And so I'm just telling you this because if you only have a few seconds to make an impression, and you know that people's attention span is so short, so I hope if you're watching online you are still with us, and you know that we're being bombarded with thousands of messages a day, we really need to practice and get in a good habit of how can we tell our story most effectively. And so the tools that I hope we're going to give you today are some of the tidbits, and this is all going to help, will help you do that. So, and the structure that we're going to give you, or a suggested outline to do that, will help you. So before I go any further, and we'll get to the homework portion at the very end, but if you could, as we're moving forward as we're moving forward here, would you just pick a buddy? We're going to identify if you just buddy up. It could be someone you came with. Could be if you didn't come with anyone, you can make a new friend. And for those of you watching online, you'll be able to do this part just on your own. You're going to be recording each other's videos. So this is all optional. Okay, this is not mandatory, but But I would love y'all to take the opportunity to practice here by the end of this, and so you're going to buddy up and do that. Or if you're watching online, you can record your video yourself. So we'll move on to the rest of the first impressions here, and this is where we really are starting to think about what we and it starts with choice of words, Kristen. Okay, great. Where we're thinking about how we want to present ourselves. So if you had to guess between these three categories, if you had to assign a percentage about what people consider most when they are forming their impression of you, between choice of words, your appearance, or your tone of voice, which would have the most? Which would be the most impactful for someone forming their impression of you? All right, I hear a lot of appearance and tone of voice. Is that right? Okay. Well, y'all are right, and I'm moving on to the next slide here, Kristen, with the answers. It is, so choice of words. Actually, for those of you in the room, you can't see these answers, so it's kind of fun. For choice of words, like for what words you use, what percentage would you say that is? 23? Y'all thought the majority is appearance or tone of voice, right? But so clearly you think that choice of words is the smallest, but how small do you think that is? 50? Okay. 10? Okay. 7% is your choice of words. Your appearance is 55%. Tone of voice is 38%. So it's the way I would put it, and in the context of, for those of us who volunteer and maybe go and knock on doors for campaigns or anything like that, is when someone sees you coming down the street and walking up to their house, that's the first thing they see, right? And however you're presenting yourself in whatever way, that's the first thing they see. Then if you show up on their doorstep and you're yelling and screaming, which obviously none of you would be doing, right? If you're trying to convince them to vote for your candidate, like this is a hypothetical, but that's going to turn them off. So you kind of have to be mindful of your appearance and your tone of voice to kind of get in the door. And then I don't want to say that your choice of words doesn't matter, because that is very important, and that's most of what we're going to talk about. But I think those first two pieces are kind of what set the stage for what you're going to say, and it makes a difference in how you present yourself, like how well they're going to receive your message. So it's just important to keep that in mind. So the takeaways here are that people are busy. And, when we think about like, oh, well, people aren't, if they're, whether or not someone shows up to the rally or to the Capitol, to the Crossroads lunch or the Zoom or whatever it is, we're being bombarded with these messages. We have our lives going on, and we are like, and so people are busy. So keep that in mind too, and give them some grace and some space to hear your message when they're able to do that. And it really is important to connect with as powerful a message as possible, as quickly as possible, and hook them in, and we're going to talk about how to do that. So I want to make sure we set the stage with the context in which people are receiving your messages, because I think that is more than half the battle. If you can keep that in mind and keep your audience in mind. So what is a message? Anyone want to throw out an attempt at what you think a message is? What are you selling, Mike says. Okay. Do something or don't do something. Okay. Well, a message, that what we like to say is that it's meant to inform and influence, first of all. It's meant to tell a story, and it depends a little bit on who your audience is. And what a message does, and this is where are you going to do something or not do something, and what are you selling, or what are you trying to convince people of, right? Is we want to inspire our base, and this is in an issue context. We want to inspire people to the folks that agree with us to take action. We want to convince people who can be convinced. And then a great message also will reveal what the opposition stands for. So it'll kind of highlight the, whatever you want to call it, the hypocrisy, the other side of the coin. So we want to highlight what we're talking, what we believe in, while kind of exposing the other side. So we follow Progress I. We follow a structure with almost every message that we send out. And this is the lead with a share. Okay, great. Thanks, Kristen. Just making sure our friends watching online are getting the same information you all are. And that is first to lead with a shared value. And that's where if you have, if you're presenting yourself well, you're connecting with the other person, you're leading with a shared value that we have in common. The second is we can define the opposition. We can define the other side in an issue context where whatever the issue is that we're talking about, there is the other side that disagrees with us. So we don't want to lead with that, and I'll talk about that more in a second. We want to lead with a shared value. We can define the opposition, and and then this says depends who's your audience, but the third piece here is to take action, is to call as a call to action. So I don't know if that's what that says on that slide at home, but so that is a typo. But the third piece is we're going to ask them to do something. So, okay. You can try to figure something out. Yeah, okay. So we want them to take action. And that's the structure. I will come back to this at the end when I'm going to give you your assignment to record a video. But this is the structure I'm going to ask you to follow. To pick the issue that you want to talk about, lead with a shared value, define the opposition, and ask someone to take action. That's what we're going to do with your video. So this is a longer list here on this slide of suggested shared values, and this is not meant to be comprehensive, but there has been a lot of opinion and polling research done on values that Iowans hold dear and where we have common ground. And so this is meant as a suggestion to you all as a starting place if you're looking to talk to someone about something that you care about and bring them into that discussion in a way where you can convince them. So the first is hard work. We have a strong sense of hard work and we want our lives to be improved. This is across the board, no matter what background you're from, like this is something that Iowans believe in. And we want our lives to be improved. And I cannot stress enough with everything that you're talking about is to focus on how people's lives will actually be improved. And I'm going to give you an example of this. There's a great message expert. Her name is Anat Shinker-Osorio. She has a phrase called "sell the brownie, not the recipe." And so if you think about that, if you were to go to your favorite restaurant and order, Mike, what's something you like to order at a restaurant? Cheeseburger. A cheeseburger, okay? So if you went into your favorite restaurant and ordered a cheeseburger and they said, Mike, we've got it. This is the $32 cheeseburger. It's the best cheeseburger on our menu. It's $32, right? That I would think that would be less convincing than if they said, Mike, this is the best cheeseburger. We cooked it. Here's how we cooked it. Here's the type of beef we use. Here's the cheese we're using. Everyone else loves it. We think you'll love it too. So I'm going to give you an example of this. This week, the House passed a multi-million-dollar support for the baby formula shortage that's going on. So as you're talking about, if just as an example, if this is an issue that you're talking about, it was a $28 million package of funding to support this, which is great. It's wonderful. It's much needed. We have to do that. But in my opinion, you should not talk about that as the $28 million baby formula relief package. You should talk about parents seeing empty shelves in the grocery store and the fear that they must have about not being to feed their baby. And that this relief is going to be so helpful for them in that moment. So that's selling the brownie, not the recipe. So consider that with everything you're talking about. And that is not to say that statistics and figures are not important. to support what you're talking about, or the message you're trying to convey, but you have to bring it down to something that can connect with somebody, motivate people who agree with us to do something about it, convince the people that can be persuaded, and then that really does call out the opposition. Like, they want to leave these shelves empty. If someone opposed this, they're just kind of shrugging their shoulders that parents are going into a grocery store and not being able to find the formula to feed their kids. Like, that's unacceptable. So that's hard to argue against when you put it that way. So sell the brownie, not the recipe. Focus on those real world impacts. So that hard work, and I went off on a little tangent there, but the hard work is the first value. Independence. We want to be the ones that make decisions for us. A history in Iowa, or connection to your local community, is another value that kind of cuts across the board. Listening through disagreement, and I want to take some time on that too. Like, you can truly say, like, we can have a conversation about this. You can open the door to listening to one another and being okay with disagreeing a little bit and sharing your story, sharing how you think what we believe in will improve people's lives, but listening to what they're saying and being okay with a little bit of disagreement. Now, of course, I trust you all to know who you're talking to, and how open they are to those conversations, because there are varying levels of people who are of openness to that kind of discussion. But that type of value, that's a value that people really have said that they connect with across the state, is being able to listen to one another. Now, an important caveat with that is that people don't often want compromise. I know that that may sound a little jarring. They want people, and this is where people want somebody to fight for them. So that's not to say they're not open to compromise, but like, I think the value that they would have is more like they want them to be fought for. So you're standing up for them. So listening doesn't always mean that you have to acquiesce or totally, like, fold your position, but so that's an important piece of it too. The last value is just getting things done, and I think that's connected to that, where they want someone to stand up for their families and for them. People want to see that something can get done, and so that's why we would end with a call to action. So those are the suggested shared values. A few quick notes on what a message is not. And a message is not just a list of facts. And we really cannot hope that facts can tell the whole story. And I'll go back to the baby formula example. If you just leave it out there that, gosh, Congress just passed $28 million in funding for the baby formula shortage. Well, if you don't agree with the government spending money on anything, you might think that that's a waste of money and it could have been done otherwise, right? Like, or you could when you just list a fact without giving some context and some information, or connecting it to how it's going to improve people's lives, people will bring their own assumptions into that discussion. So you have to give them that additional context if you want to try to persuade them or motivate them to take action. So a fact alone is not enough to form a convincing message. A message is also not only a fact check of the opposition. When you bring up their argument, it reminds people of their argument. So it can be part of what you're saying, but when you want to lead with your shared value, talk about what you believe in and how it's going to improve people's lives. Then talk about the opposition, and you can talk about if they're, playing loose with the facts, then that's appropriate to mention, but it is not only that. And it is not simply a retort. It is not just simply they're wrong, you're wrong, just a quick response like that, because that type of argument alone just shuts people down and closes off the conversation. So that's why we lead with the shared value. That's why another one of the shared values is listening through that disagreement and being open to having a conversation. And I have one more little section here before we're going to do our practice, our homework, and talk about what makes a good messenger. There's been a ton of research done on this. A lot of times it's done by TV personalities, but it's been done on a lot of public spokespeople. And the combination that they typically look for is warmth and strength as a combination of those two. And so on the slide here, I have a chart that goes, like this. So at the top of one is warmth, and at the other end of the spectrum is strength. And if you're looking for a combination of those two, does anyone come to mind when you think of either one of those, warmth or strength? Stephen Colbert, okay. And where would he fall, Mike? Warmth or strength? Oh, yeah. Okay, all the above for Mike. Stephen Colbert is it for Mike McCarthy. Okay. Anyone else? It could be fictional too. I have a couple of examples here. Eleanor Roosevelt and Putin for strength. Okay. Not for warmth, right. Okay, not for warmth. So, the home equity loans. I don't know who that is. Is that? Tom Selleck, okay. For warmth or strength? That's why he got that job. Okay. So, oh gosh, we have it up here. So you're going to get to see, thank you for the help. So you can move on to the next slide because we're already on this chart. So just a few examples. So for warmth, but the opposite of strength is Charlie Brown. So that'd be the, friendly, but, keeps coming up to the football and Lucy keeps pulling it away. So that's warmth, but not necessarily strength. And then completely unrelated to the suggestion that was mentioned earlier, Donald Trump on the strength end of the spectrum, but without much warmth, right? And then Oprah Winfrey is someone that, as consistently in research that's been done, this is why I talked about the TV personalities, as projecting both of those things. So that's kind of in the middle there. So what you are looking for is a combination of both warmth and strength when you're conveying your message and trying to bring people into the conversation. So all of that being said, we are now going to practice. So you have, I think we've got, I don't know how much time we have, and I tried to not take too long. Oh, we have a half an hour. This is great. And I'm happy to take any questions too, of course. So you're going to lead with a shared value, with unifying, with language that kind of brings people together, those shared values. Remember you can smile, project that warmth and strength. Define the opposition or the other side, and then encourage action from your audience. And your audience could be, think about who you're talking to. You could be sharing this on social media. You could be sending this video and addressing an elected official of your choice by putting it out into the world, whoever you would like. And you can pick any issue that you want. So you can go through and make some notes or think about this, and then how we like to do these when we do these trainings or do these sessions like this is when you're working with your buddy, give your buddy your phone and have them record your video on your phone. That way you can take it home with you. You can look at it, practice. You can also, at the end here, I have, you can send it to me. You can send it to Progress Iowa for us to use if you're comfortable doing that, or we would love to work with you on telling your story and communicating your message. And that goes for everyone watching online as well. If you want to lead with your shared value, think about the issue you want to talk about, lead with the shared value, define the opposition, and make a call to action and record a selfie video. You can send it. I'll just give you it's on the last slide, but it's just matt@progressiowa.org, and you can email it directly to me, or we can figure out a way to connect on that. But And as you're recording these videos, the next slide, oh, great, we're back up. The next slide has the shared values if you want to use that as well. And if anyone has any technical issues with their phone, not with the projector here, but with their phone, I'd be happy to come around and help. I will stop there because I would love to see, like, we can spread out and get some recordings done here. But are there any questions about anything that I've shared so far? Wow, great. Are there any questions online?
And for those who are in the room, if you want these slides, I have them and I can email them to you, so you can see that. Just let me know. I wonder if you want to give them a choice of like 3 issues, because sometimes it's hard just to even come up with that.
Yeah.
Like they could do the baby formula and maybe 2
So
others.
let's do the, if you want to talk about the baby formula topic, because that just passed the House this week. And for context, however you want to approach this, Cindy Axie voted in favor of that. The other 3 representatives voted against that. That's a great starting point to a video there. You could talk about the legislative session that is soon, hopefully, coming to an end, and the potential that there could be a private school vouchers included in that. And then I don't know, what's a good third topic, Connie?
Maybe an issue around environment that you care about.
Okay. Yeah, an environmental issue that you care about.
And you don't have to do those. You can pick one, like that's just
absolutely. And if you want to talk through a potential issue, we're here for that. I'm here for that too, or we can help with that.
So let's give a time frame of
10 minutes.
10. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Is that? Yeah. Okay. So go record your videos with your buddy. Yeah, it is. You can do it later. Even after following I mean, like you talked I don't I might ask you a volunteer. They're all. Working on it. You have it? Oh, no. Okay, great. Any questions? Okay. Well, you start with like connecting. Yeah. How are you? Well, the way that she prefers it. I think you can really get
Okay, you have 1 minute to wrap up.
Okay, I've been walking around and I think everyone has been either talking about this or recording videos. So thank you all for doing this homework in these 10 minutes. And we'll open it up for questions, but as we're taking questions, I want to know if I want you to be thinking about we won't be able to show your video here, but I would love for you and anyone watching online who recorded a video to send it to matt@progressiowa.org. I assume if you send it to Connie, Kristen, anyone from Interfaith, that they can get it to us too. But if you could send us your videos, but also for those of us in the room and those of us watching online, if there's a volunteer that would like to come up and share what you said on your video, or close to what you said on your video, we'd love to have that as well. So be thinking about that, and if you want to volunteer. But I'm happy to take any questions that you have. I know Robin has one. Yeah.
Okay, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you.
Thanks, Connie. Matt, I love this formula, and I see how it could be used for a short conversation, a longer letter to the editor, and also for a larger, say, op-ed piece. However, one of the things that I'm wondering is when I email legislators about a particular bill, my tendency has been, because I've been under the impression that staffers read them, they just count the yays and the nays, and so I just make it short and sweet and put it in the subject line and then maybe have 2 sentences. And I just want to know if I really should be sending a heartfelt, strong, and warm note to legislators, or if I should be short and sweet.
Okay. I think that is a great question, and I think it goes back to one of the things we talked about earlier, which is considering who is your audience. And so this is a good, I'm glad you like the structure. I hope everyone will put it to use, because we use it, our team uses it every single day, and we found it to be effective. But you have to consider who your audience is. And so if you think that that's the best way to communicate with that legislator, then I'd say go for it. But I would also think about, and this is in the context of not just with the legislator, but with if you happen to get interviewed by a reporter at an event or whatever you might be doing, think about who your real audience is. So if you're communicating with that legislator, but you know that you're going to be forwarding that on to friends and family, you want to forward that on to friends and family, say, here's how I talked to my member of Congress about this issue, or to a reporter, or to, if you're getting interviewed, your audience is not that reporter. It's not even necessarily the people who are at the event with you. It's the people who are going to be watching on the news later on, right? So really be mindful about who are you trying to convince here? Because if you already know what the legislator or how they're gonna vote, maybe they're your audience, but maybe they aren't. So be thoughtful about that too. So that'd be my advice. Yeah. Any other questions? And then we're going to have volunteers come up, right? So come on. Otherwise, I'll call on people. So. Okay. Who wants to share their statement or their video? I see people pointing at each other over here. Come on. You can do it. Mike, you want to get up and share?
It says it's too big to send or something.
Well, Mike McCarthy probably was just a little bit verbose. That's all right. Yeah.
2 minutes long or too long?
No, that's not too long. We'll figure out a way to send it. But no, but Mike, you can just stand up here and use your, yeah. Let's give Mike a round of applause for volunteering.
Matt, if I knew you were going to put me on the spot, I don't know if that'd show up or not, but the food was good.
Okay, good.
So it's worth coming.
Just be mindful this is going out on the internet, so
Sure.
whatever you're,
I got the audience of 4 million people.
That's right,
Right now. Hi, everybody. Mike McCarthy. I'm the Iowa State President of the Iowa Alliance for Retired Americans. And of course, we always deal with senior issues. How are we making our seniors be in a better place to live? Recently, we've all been struggling with something called inflation. So we did some research and we're looking at, is it really inflation? Is all of it inflation? What's going on out there? Who's taking money out of our pockets that we need for drugs and food and rent and mortgage, insurance, you know, basic things. We're beginning to find out. Sure, we had some supply chain issues and there were some factories that had to shut down. We're still recovering from COVID. Yeah, we needed a little bit of inflation because the demand was bigger than the supply. Now, this is pretty common in our economy. But now all of a sudden we're discovering that there are some people taking advantage of the situation. And it's called price gouging. Somebody's dipping into our pockets who don't belong there. And so we're putting out a campaign to let people be aware of what's going on. So if you have any contact with your representative or your congressman or your senator, or even influential people who can get things done like Matt Sinovic, let them know that you want to support any program that's going to call out those people who are dipping into our pockets immorally. Do you hear me? Immorally. And let everyone know who is a good neighbor and who's not a good neighbor. Because Iowans, we have a good moral sense of what is right and wrong. And price gouging, no. So help us out. If you find someone that you think is price gouging, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And if anyone else wants to volunteer, just feel free to walk on up, but I'm going to go talk through what Mike said a little bit. Anyone want to give any feedback on what he said based on the structure? Other than I would generally agree with what you said, Mike, but on the structure that we've talked about? Okay, I'll tell you what I liked about it. He started with talking about the Iowa Alliance for Retired Americans and improving the lives of seniors across the state. So you're trying to talk about the real impact to people's lives that they're trying to address. Then second, he defined the opposition and asked questions, and that's a good way. Asking questions is a good way to note that you're listening to people and like wondering, you know, what they're thinking too. So even if it's not exactly waiting for an answer, if you're asking questions like that, even rhetorically, that's a good way to signal that. But defining the opposition, instead of it being these things, it is price gouging that is harming the lives of the people that we care about. And then finally, he did end with a call to action. He talked about the campaign that they're doing and wanting to get in contact with elected officials to address it. And that's a good example of how we can each take that structure and put it to use in our own way. So thanks again, Mike, for sharing that. And try to be entertaining, sure, of course, yeah. I don't know, we have just about 5 minutes left, so if there is another volunteer, we could maybe do that. But if not, then I will just see if there's any other questions. So,
I do have a question.
great, Jean. Yeah.
Do you have a?
Jean White.
Oh, waiting on the mic.
Do you have a favorite communicator? Is there somebody that just nails it every single time?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Do I have a favorite communicator that nails it every single time? You're putting me on the spot, but I will say, like, this is, I just told you this. You spoke at a rally for abortion rights last week or a few weeks ago. You did a great job. So you'd be up there, Gene. So I think President Obama was always very good. I think, and I'll be bipartisan and take away the content that was coming out of his mouth. But actually, Ronald Reagan was a good communicator in speeches. So sorry to, yeah. And Connie's going to give me the hook for saying that. She said, oh, no.
I have a suggestion, Connie Ryan.
Connie Ryan, of course, is a great communicator. Yeah.
Said from my stepdad.
I was thinking that Jon Stewart has been effective both as a communicator on his TV show and afterwards when he's advocated for help for the people that were 911 first responders.
I think that's exactly, I would agree with that completely, because that's a good example of like, I'm trying to picture the actual hearings that they had when he went to Congress and testified or spoke, but I'm pretty sure he had the people, the families and the actual people there with him, right? Like, okay, yeah. And that's a great example of like literally showing people this is the impact of your decisions. You're harming these people, like these people's lives. And so that's and he's obviously used his large audience and celebrity for that good purpose too. So I would agree with that. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, if you have these videos and you want help sharing them, please, I'll be here for a little bit, but you can email them to matt@progressiowa.org. That goes for everyone watching online as well. We'd love for you to sign up. Again, we have a great team of wonderful staff who's working to help organizations and activists communicate their message. So please get in touch with us. There are a number of trainings and meetings that we hold regularly. We'd love to plug you into. And yeah, just thank you all so much for being here today and participating.
And let us thank Matt Sinovic. And I also would like to thank Josh Brown, who has worked very hard to try and get the technology up on the screens. And there was a lot of work and button pushing and different things. So thank you for being a help. So, but Matt Sinovic, thank you for all of your work. Thank you for Progress Iowa and the partnership that we've always had, and just really good information and sharing with folks. So I hope you will be able to use this in your lives, in how you talk with folks, in advocacy, and all of that work. So thank you for being at Crossroads, whether you are in person or online. We're grateful, and we will continue to have these once a month on the third Friday of the month. And as you know, we are asking people who are in person, who are purchasing a lunch, to do that as you make your reservation, and we're going to continue that practice for a while anyway, and we'll see how that goes. So anyway, thank you for being here, and have a great weekend.